The Tower in the Quiet Valley. Far from villages and traveled roads, there was a quiet valley where the land dipped gently between hills. The air there was cool and steady, moving slowly through tall grass and low trees, carrying with it the soft sound of night wind. At the center of the valley stood a tower. Not grand, not decorated, just tall, narrow, and still. Its stone walls were smooth from time, warmed by the sun during the day and cooled gently by evening air. There were no doors at its base, no windows near the ground, only height and silence rising calmly into the sky. The tower did not feel threatening. It felt watchful, patient. Each night, the wind moved around it, brushing against stone, whispering softly as it passed. The tower had stood there for many years, untouched by noise, untouched by change. High above the ground, near the top of the tower, a single window glowed faintly with warm light. Inside lived Rapunzel. She had known the tower for as long as she could remember. To her, it was not a prison, but a place of routine and quiet rhythm. Days passed slowly there, measured not by clocks, but by light and shadow. Rapunzel moved gently through the small space, her footsteps soft against the stone floor. She kept the room clean and warm, filling it with small comforts. Books rested neatly along the wall. Candles flickered calmly, casting slow-moving shadows that danced without hurry. She listened often to the world outside, to the wind, to distant birds, to the silence between sounds. From her window, Rapunzel could see far across the valley. Trees swayed lightly in the breeze, their movement slow and soothing. At night, stars appeared one by one, steady and quiet, as if they too were resting. Rapunzel's long hair rested loosely over her shoulders, golden and soft, catching the candlelight gently. She brushed it slowly each evening, not rushing, letting the familiar motion calm her thoughts. There was no urgency in her life, only waiting, only stillness, only the gentle passing of time. And as the wind circled the tower once more, the night settled deeper around the valley, holding Rapunzel and her quiet world in a calm, unbroken hush. Mother Gothel and the Quiet Routine. Morning arrived slowly in the valley, without sound or urgency. The light shifted gently across the hills, touching the tower's stone walls and warming them little by little. Inside, Rapunzel woke as she always did, guided not by noise, but by the soft change of light. She moved through the small room calmly, opening the window to let in fresh air. The breeze carried the scent of grass and distant trees, cool and steady, bringing with it the quiet rhythm of the valley below. Not long after, a familiar voice rose from the ground far beneath the tower. "Rapunzel," it called, low and measured. "Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel leaned out the window, her expression gentle and calm. She gathered her long golden hair and released it slowly, watching as it fell in a smooth line down the side of the tower, catching the light as it descended. Moments later, Mother Gothel climbed upward, her movements practiced and unhurried. She entered the tower as she always did, carrying baskets filled with food and small comforts. Her presence filled the room, steady and controlled. She spoke softly, her tone warm on the surface, familiar and reassuring. "Have you been safe?" she asked. "Have you been well?" Rapunzel nodded, smiling faintly. "Yes," she replied. "Everything is quiet." Mother Gothel moved about the room, setting down her baskets, straightening objects that were already in place. She watched Rapunzel carefully, her gaze lingering longer than necessary. "The world beyond this tower is dangerous," she said calmly. "Out there, nothing is as gentle as it seems." Rapunzel listened without argument. She had heard these words many times before, delivered with the same even tone, the same certainty. The routine was familiar, comforting in its repetition. They shared a simple meal together, eating slowly. Mother Gothel spoke of caution and patience, of waiting, of safety found only within the tower's walls. Her voice never rose. It did not need to. When it was time to leave, Mother Gothel gathered her things and stepped back toward the window. Before climbing down, she paused, turning once more toward Rapunzel. "You belong here," she said softly, "where you are protected." Rapunzel nodded again, though something inside her stirred quietly. Not resistance, not fear, just a faint curiosity, resting beneath the surface. Mother Gothel descended, disappearing from sight as Rapunzel drew her hair back inside. The tower returned to its quiet state, holding its stillness, as it always had. Rapunzel sat near the window, looking out across the valley. The wind moved through the grass below, free and unburdened. Birds crossed the open sky, their flight smooth and effortless. She breathed slowly, her thoughts gentle and unformed. Life continued as it always had, calm and predictable. But somewhere within that calm, a small awareness had begun to grow. A sense that the world beyond the tower held more than danger alone. For now, though, the tower remained her home. The routine remained unbroken, and the day passed quietly, just as it always had. Songs, wind, and quiet longing. After Mother Gothel left, the tower returned to its familiar hush. Rapunzel moved slowly through the room, letting the quiet settle again, as though the walls themselves were breathing with her. She tidied the small space without hurry, folding cloths, arranging books, placing candles where the light would fall most gently. The routine was comforting, each motion known and predictable. When the work was done, Rapunzel sat near the window and listened. The wind moved through the valley below, brushing the tall grass and carrying with it a soft, steady sound. It was not loud. It did not demand attention. It simply existed, passing by, untroubled. Rapunzel closed her eyes and hummed softly. The melody was slow and simple, woven from the quiet she felt around her. Her voice drifted out through the open window, floating down the tower's stone walls and into the open air. The sound blended with the wind, neither overpowering the other. Together, they moved gently across the valley, rising and falling like a calm breath. Rapunzel sang without words at first, allowing the tone itself to guide her. Each note was unforced, carried naturally by her breath. The song did not tell a story. It held a feeling of waiting, a feeling of wondering. She opened her eyes and looked out again, watching clouds move slowly across the sky. From this height, the world looked wide and open, stretching farther than she could walk in a lifetime. Her song softened, then faded into silence. Rapunzel rested her chin in her hands, her thoughts drifting without shape. She did not feel unhappy. The tower had been her world for so long that it felt natural. And yet, there was something else. A quiet pull, gentle but persistent, like the wind calling her attention again and again. She wondered about the path that curved through the valley, about where it led and who might walk upon it. She wondered what it would feel like to step onto grass without stone beneath her feet, to follow the wind instead of watching it pass. The thought did not frighten her. It rested quietly, like a question waiting for the right time to be asked. As afternoon light shifted, Rapunzel brushed her long hair slowly, letting the strands fall through her fingers. The familiar motion grounded her, easing the small stirrings in her mind. She returned to her books, reading until the words softened into shapes rather than meaning. Outside, the wind continued its gentle song, unchanged and steady. By evening, the sky deepened into softer colors, and the tower grew calm once more. Rapunzel lit a candle and sat quietly, letting the day settle around her. The song of the wind remained. The longing remained too. Not loud, not urgent, just present. And as night approached, the tower held Rapunzel in its familiar stillness, even as the quiet valley below continued to whisper of a world beyond stone walls and routine. A stranger passes through the valley. As twilight settled over the valley, the colors of the sky softened into pale blues and muted golds. The wind slowed, brushing gently across the grass, carrying the quiet forward without interruption. Below the tower, a lone traveler moved along the narrow path that curved through the valley. His steps were unhurried, guided by curiosity rather than destination. He paused often, listening to the open space around him, noticing how the land seemed to breathe. The tower rose above him, tall and silent against the evening sky. He stopped and looked up, surprised by its stillness. There were no doors at its base, no signs of life near the ground, only stone rising calmly into the air. High above, a faint sound reached him, a voice, soft and distant. Rapunzel's song drifted down from the tower window, carried gently by the wind. It was not loud, not dramatic, only present, woven into the quiet like a thread of warmth. The traveler stood very still. He did not call out. He did not move closer. He listened. The sound wrapped itself around the valley, lingering just long enough to be felt before fading again into silence. When it ended, the air seemed fuller, as though something kind had passed through. Above, Rapunzel leaned slightly from the window, unaware she had been heard. She watched the sky deepen, her thoughts calm but awake, resting lightly on the horizon. Below, the traveler resumed his walk, carrying the memory of the voice with him. He did not know why it mattered, only that it did. The tower remained behind him, tall and quiet once more. Night continued its gentle arrival. The valley grew darker, slower. Lights appeared faintly in the distance, but the tower held its single glow, steady and warm. Rapunzel closed the window and lit a candle, allowing the room to settle. The wind circled the tower again, brushing stone softly, whispering without words. Somewhere below, the traveler moved farther along the path, guided now by something unseen. And above, Rapunzel rested within the tower's familiar calm, unaware that the quiet world around her had begun, very gently, to shift. Now, take a slow breath in through your nose. Let it fill your chest gently. Pause for a brief moment. Now exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing the air without effort. Again, breathe in, slow, steady, and breathe out. Long, easy. Allow your shoulders to soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands rest heavier wherever they are. There is nothing you need to hold right now, nothing you need to remember. With each breath out, imagine the day settling farther away, like footsteps fading down a quiet path. Inhale calm. Exhale tension. One more time. In and out. Good. The wind outside continues softly. The tower remains still, and you may rest here, breathing gently, allowing the quiet to deepen naturally. Night in the tower. Night settled fully over the valley, slow and unannounced. The last light faded from the hills, leaving only a deep blue sky scattered with faint stars. The wind moved steadily now, not strong, not restless, just present, circling the tower with quiet familiarity. Inside, Rapunzel finished her evening routine without hurry. She closed the shutters gently, leaving one slightly open to let the night air pass through. The room cooled just enough to feel refreshing, balanced by the soft warmth of candlelight. She lit 2 candles and placed them carefully near the window and beside her bed. Their flames flickered calmly, stretching shadows across the stone walls in long, slow patterns. The light did not rush. It lingered. Rapunzel sat on the edge of her bed and brushed her hair slowly, allowing the familiar rhythm to calm her thoughts. Each stroke was unforced, steady, grounding. The sound of the brush moving through her hair blended with the low hum of the wind outside. From time to time, a gentle gust pressed against the tower, brushing the stone with a soft sigh. The sound felt distant and soothing, like a reminder that the world beyond was still moving, still breathing. Rapunzel paused and listened. No voices, no footsteps, only wind and stillness. She lay back carefully, resting her head on a small pillow, her gaze drifting toward the candlelight above. The ceiling seemed higher at night, the space quieter, as though the tower itself were resting. Her breathing slowed naturally, in and out. The day's thoughts loosened their grip. Nothing pressed for attention. Nothing waited to be solved. The night had arrived to hold everything gently in place. Outside, clouds moved slowly across the stars, dimming them and revealing them again in a steady rhythm. The valley below slept quietly, untouched by noise or urgency. Rapunzel closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again, simply enjoying the stillness. She felt safe here, wrapped in routine and quiet, held by stone walls and steady wind. The candle flames lowered slightly, their movement slower now. Shadows softened. The room grew deeper with calm. Rapunzel turned onto her side, allowing the bed to support her fully. Her muscles relaxed one by one, releasing the last traces of the day. As the wind continued its gentle path around the tower, Rapunzel drifted toward rest, not pushed, not pulled, simply guided by the quiet. The tower stood watch through the night. The valley slept, and Rapunzel rested, suspended between waking and dreaming, carried by calm into the deeper hours of darkness. A visit before dawn. The night remained quiet for a long while. The wind moved gently around the tower, brushing stone and grass without urgency. Inside, Rapunzel slept lightly, her breathing slow and even, undisturbed by dreams. Before dawn, when the sky was still dark and the stars had not yet faded, a familiar presence approached the base of the tower. Mother Gothel arrived quietly, her steps measured, careful not to disturb the valley's stillness. She looked up toward the tower, her expression calm and composed, as though nothing in the world could surprise her. "Rapunzel," she called softly. "Rapunzel, let down your hair." The words floated upward, gentle and practiced. Above, Rapunzel stirred, not suddenly, not with alarm. She opened her eyes slowly, the remnants of sleep lingering as she recognized the voice. Rising from the bed, she gathered her long hair and released it through the window, watching it fall in a smooth, familiar line. Mother Gothel climbed steadily, her movements precise and unhurried. When she entered the tower, she glanced around, noting the candlelight, the open window, the quiet order of the room. "You were sleeping," she said, her tone warm, almost approving. Rapunzel nodded. "The night was calm," she replied. Mother Gothel set down a small basket and moved closer, adjusting Rapunzel's cloak, brushing imaginary dust from her sleeve. Her touch was light but deliberate. "The world outside remains dangerous," she said quietly. "It is best to stay where you are protected." Rapunzel listened without argument. The words were familiar, woven into her routine like the turning of days. And yet, beneath her calm, something shifted slightly. "I heard the wind," Rapunzel said gently. It felt peaceful. Mother Gothel's expression tightened, only briefly, before smoothing again. "Peace can be deceiving," she replied. "The tower keeps you safe." She spoke of caution, of waiting, of patience. Her voice never rose, never wavered. When she finished, she gathered her basket once more. "Rest," she said softly. "Morning will come soon." She climbed down and disappeared into the dark, leaving the tower quiet once again. Rapunzel closed the window and stood still for a moment, listening. The wind had not changed. It continued its gentle movement around the stone walls, steady and untroubled. She returned to her bed and lay down, her breathing slowing again. The visit lingered in her thoughts, not as fear, but as contrast. The tower remained calm. The valley remained quiet. But beneath the familiar stillness, a deeper awareness had begun to take shape. Resting gently, waiting for the day to fully arrive. Morning light and growing curiosity. Morning arrived quietly, without announcement. The sky lightened slowly, shifting from deep blue to soft gray, then to pale gold as the sun rose behind the hills. The valley woke gently, stretching into the day without hurry. Inside the tower, Rapunzel stirred as the light reached her window. She opened her eyes and rested for a moment, listening. The wind had softened, replaced by the faint sounds of birds beginning their day below. She rose from the bed and moved toward the window, drawing back the shutters carefully. Cool morning air filled the room, fresh and steady, carrying the scent of grass and distant earth. From this height, the valley looked peaceful. Light moved slowly across the land, revealing paths and trees that had rested in shadow through the night. The world felt open, calm, and inviting. Rapunzel leaned gently against the stone frame of the window, watching as a bird crossed the open sky. its flight smooth and effortless. She followed it with her eyes until it disappeared beyond the hills. Something within her shifted, not suddenly, not sharply, just a quiet awareness, growing slowly, like light filling a room. She wondered again about the path winding through the valley, about where it led, and who might walk upon it in the early hours. The thought did not feel dangerous. It felt natural. Rapunzel stepped back into the room and began her morning routine, moving calmly but thoughtfully. She prepared a simple meal, tidied the space, and brushed her hair slowly, letting each familiar motion settle her thoughts. Yet even as she worked, her attention returned to the window again and again. The outside world called softly, not with urgency, but with possibility. The tower remained steady around her, its walls unchanged. But Rapunzel felt different within them. The routine that once brought comfort now carried questions alongside its calm. She returned to the window once more and rested her hands on the stone sill. The valley below moved gently, life unfolding without disturbance. Rapunzel breathed in deeply, filling her chest with the cool morning air. As she exhaled, she felt lighter, as though the day itself had offered her permission to wonder. The tower had been her world for so long. But now, as morning fully arrived, the idea of something beyond it rested quietly in her thoughts. Not as longing, not as rebellion, just curiosity. And as the sun rose higher, the tower held Rapunzel in its familiar calm, even as her awareness continued to expand gently, preparing her for the changes that would come in their own unhurried time. The rope of hair and the first descent. The day continued its gentle passage, and the valley remained calm beneath the open sky. Light drifted slowly across the hills, and the wind returned, brushing softly against the tower's stone walls. Rapunzel stood near the window, her thoughts steady but awake. The quiet curiosity that had grown within her did not fade. It remained present, like a small, steady flame. Below, the path through the valley lay open and still. She leaned out slightly, her gaze following the curve of the land as it disappeared into the distance. For the first time, the height of the tower felt less like protection and more like separation. Rapunzel stepped back into the room and gathered her long hair in her hands. The strands were smooth and strong, familiar beneath her fingers. She braided it slowly, the motion calming, deliberate, grounding her breath. When she reached the window again, she paused. The tower was silent. The valley waited. Rapunzel took a slow breath in, then let it out gently. She tied the end of her hair securely to a stone fixture inside the room, testing it with care. Everything she did was unhurried, thoughtful, guided by instinct rather than fear. She leaned forward and allowed the braided hair to fall down the side of the tower. It descended smoothly, catching the light as it moved, forming a soft golden line against the stone. Rapunzel watched it sway gently in the breeze, steady and strong. For a long moment, she did nothing more than observe. Then, carefully, she placed her hands against the stone wall and lowered one foot over the edge of the window. The air felt cool against her skin, refreshing and clear. She did not rush. She did not panic. She trusted the calm that surrounded her. Slowly, Rapunzel began her descent, moving one measured step at a time. The stone beneath her hands felt solid, familiar. Her breathing remained slow and even, guiding each movement downward. The wind moved gently around her, carrying the scent of grass and earth upward. With each step, the tower rose higher above her, and the valley drew closer. She paused often, resting, listening to the quiet. There was no danger in the moment, only focus, only presence. At last, her feet touched the ground. Rapunzel stood still for a moment, feeling the earth beneath her. It felt cool and firm, alive in a way the tower floor never had. She looked up at the tower once more, tall and unchanged, then turned slowly toward the open valley. The path lay ahead. And for the first time, Rapunzel stood within the world she had only ever watched from above. Her heart calm, her curiosity gently fulfilled. Take a slow breath in through your nose. Let the air fill your chest gently. Do not force it. Just allow it. Hold for a brief, comfortable moment. Now exhale slowly through your mouth. Long, easy, as if you are letting the day fall away. Again, breathe in, slow and steady, and breathe out, soft and relaxed. With each breath out, feel your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands rest heavier wherever they are. There is nothing you need to do. Nothing you need to remember. You're safe here. Breathing in calm, breathing out tension. One more time. In and out. Good. The ground beneath you feels steady. The air around you feels quiet. And your body knows how to rest. After standing quietly for a moment, Rapunzel began to walk. Her steps were slow and careful, not from fear, but from awareness. The grass beneath her feet bent softly, cool and fresh, responding gently to her weight. Each step felt grounding, steady, real. The valley stretched wide around her, open and calm. The wind moved lightly across the land, brushing her skin and carrying the soft scent of earth and leaves. It felt welcoming, as though the world itself had been waiting. Rapunzel followed the narrow path that curved through the valley. It did not hurry her. It did not pull. It simply continued forward, patient and unchanging. She walked in silence, listening to the subtle sounds around her. Birds moved quietly through the trees. The grass whispered as it swayed, Everything felt balanced, as if the valley held its breath in gentle harmony. Eventually, Rapunzel paused and looked back. The tower stood tall behind her, unchanged, steady against the sky. It had sheltered her for many years, holding her safely through long days and quiet nights. She felt no anger toward it, no resentment, only gratitude. The tower had given her time to grow calm, time to grow gentle. Now, the valley offered something different. Not urgency, not danger, only space. Rapunzel turned forward again and continued walking, her breathing slow and even. With each step, her thoughts softened, becoming lighter, less defined. The path curved gently, leading her toward the open land beyond the hills. She did not need to know where it ended. It was enough to be walking, present within the moment. As the light shifted and the day leaned quietly toward evening, Rapunzel felt her body grow heavy with calm. The movement of walking became soothing, repetitive, effortless. The world around her seemed to slow. And now, as this story begins to rest, you may allow yourself to rest as well. There is nothing more you need to follow, nothing more you need to imagine. The valley is quiet. The wind is gentle. And you may drift now, slowly, comfortably, into your own deep rest. Good night.